Netflix has become the go-to platform for true crime lovers, delivering edge-of-your-seat documentaries that grip millions. But behind the binge-worthy scenes, many of these stories walk a fine line between truth and sensationalism. How much of what you're watching is fact, and how much is carefully curated drama? From manipulated timelines to one-sided narratives, these documentaries often leave out just enough to spark outrage. But is it all intentional, or just the price of compelling storytelling? Today on Crime Cipher, we're breaking down the most controversial crime series on Netflix to find out what's real and what's just good editing. If you love diving into real-life mysteries, analyzing what's real and what's exaggerated, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any deep dives from Crime Cipher. Making a Murderer. When Making a Murderer dropped in 2015, it caused a media storm. It followed Stephen Avery, a man wrongfully convicted of sexual assault, later accused of murder. The documentary painted Avery as a victim of a corrupt justice system. Viewers were outraged, and many believed he was framed. But here's where things get murky. Prosecutors claimed the series left out crucial evidence, including DNA and witness testimony. Critics argued Netflix was feeding a narrative that would sell, not necessarily one grounded in balance. Avery's own defense lawyer even admitted the show took creative liberties to shape viewer opinion. The truth? Avery's case is complex. While the documentary highlighted flaws in the justice system, it also glossed over elements that didn't fit the wronged man storyline. The Staircase. The Staircase followed the bizarre case of Michael Peterson, accused of murdering his wife Kathleen, who was found dead at the bottom of the stairs in their home. The series documented everything, from the trial to Peterson's personal struggles. It humanized him, making many question whether he was guilty or just tragically unlucky. But again, critics pointed out key omissions. For example, the documentary barely touched on Peterson's past, where a friend of his also died from a staircase fall under mysterious circumstances. Prosecutors saw this as a major red flag, but Netflix downplayed it. The series created a sympathetic lens, showing Peterson as a man overwhelmed by grief and courtroom injustice. But in trying to provoke empathy, did it downplay disturbing patterns? The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. This docuseries horrified viewers across the globe. The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez told the gut-wrenching story of an 8-year-old boy tortured and murdered by his mother and her boyfriend. It didn't just expose a single tragedy, it showed how an entire system failed to protect a child screaming for help. Unlike other Netflix true crime shows, this one didn't glamorize or romanticize the horror. But some viewers felt the show leaned heavily on graphic content for emotional impact. The constant replays of abuse details were criticized as overwhelming and possibly exploitative. Still, the documentary had a powerful purpose. It sparked national outrage and led to calls for child welfare reform. Sometimes the hype serves a greater cause, but even then, it raises an important question. Is it ethical to relive such trauma for storytelling? Don't FK with Cats. This oddly titled but deeply disturbing series followed internet sleuths as they tracked down a man who posted videos of himself killing kittens, only to later become a murderer. Don't F-Up with Cats became a viral hit, partly due to its shocking twist and suspenseful pacing. But beneath the surface, some viewers questioned the ethics of it all. Were we really celebrating justice, or just watching a community become obsessed with gore and vengeance? Critics noted the documentary almost glorified the killer by giving him a chilling spotlight. The series also blurred lines between audience and participant. Viewers became part of the hunt, feeding the drama in real time. While the story had a real criminal at its center, Netflix leaned into shock value to keep you watching. Hype? Absolutely, but undeniably effective. The confession tapes. The confession tapes showcased people who confessed to serious crimes, but later claimed their confessions were coerced. The idea? Not all who confess are actually guilty. The show made you question how confessions are obtained and whether justice is as black and white as it seems. But here's the issue. The editing often leaves out the prosecution's full case. Instead, we see hours of interrogation and emotional manipulation, painting police as bullies. Viewers only get part of the story, filtered through a very specific lens. The series is eye-opening, but also engineered. Every shot, every interview angle builds suspense and distrust. That doesn't mean the claims are false, but it does mean the narrative might be incomplete. Netflix wanted you to feel shocked, and it worked. Murder Among the Mormons. This chilling series explored Mark Hoffman, a master forger who created fake Mormon documents and eventually turned to murder to cover his tracks. Murder Among the Mormons stood out because it wasn't about a typical killer. It was about how far someone would go to protect a lie. The documentary was fascinating, but some critics argued it glossed over deeper questions about religion and institutional secrecy. Hoffman's deception exposed vulnerabilities not just in law enforcement, but in a religious organization that quietly bought and buried the forgeries. The story was real, but the documentary kept the focus tight, too tight for some. By avoiding deeper religious or cultural critique, Netflix may have missed an opportunity to unpack the full societal weight of the crime. It was sharp, stylish, but possibly shallow. The Keepers. The Keepers explored the decades-old murder of Sister Kathy Sesnick, a beloved nun and teacher. As former students investigated her death, they uncovered a disturbing pattern of abuse within the Catholic Church. The series didn't offer closure, but it did leave viewers shaken. This docu-series was praised for its emotional depth, but criticized for its unresolved ending. Netflix leaned into mystery rather than answers. Some felt manipulated, like the story was built to keep you watching rather than delivering hard truths. Still, the Keepers shed light on victims who had been ignored for years. Out of Thin Air. This lesser-known documentary from Iceland showed how 6 people confessed to a murder they didn't commit, despite no physical evidence. Out of Thin Air showed how pressure, isolation, and suggestion can literally rewire your memory. But did the documentary go too far in blaming authorities? The show highlighted the psychological breakdowns of the suspects, but offered little insight into alternative theories or wider context. It was chilling, yes, but also deeply focused on a narrative of innocence that wasn't fully challenged on screen. Netflix's style of storytelling created emotional engagement, but some local Icelandic experts criticized the series for dramatizing a story that's still debated. What's the verdict? Netflix has mastered the art of true crime storytelling, but that doesn't mean it always gives us the full picture. From cleverly edited timelines to emotionally loaded interviews, these documentaries often serve drama first and truth second. While they spark awareness, outrage, and discussion, they also walk a tightrope between journalism and entertainment. Don't forget to like, subscribe to Crime Cipher, and hit the bell for more deep dives into the stories behind the screen.